Hey there, good evening. It's always nice to see you. It's always nice to be here for the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors and journalists and people who put stuff out. And we're going to talk with one of the, I think, leading journalists in our time, who covers all the stuff we need to know about. In our second segment, we're going to pay him respects and memorial to a great all-time Bronxite who recently passed away. We'll tell you more about that. But first, let's start with my friend Ethan Stark Miller. He's covers New York City and state politics for AM New York Metro. Nice to see you again, Ethan. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Gary. Always good to see you.
So you cut right to the core. The city of yes. Some people say it should be the city of no because they don't like the idea. Mayor Adams' City of Yes plan to boost housing supply draws cheers and jeers at an hour-long hearing. Now, this is a little ways back. It was July 10th that you wrote about it. But let's talk about it. Explain what the City of Yes is, and then we can break down why they like it, why they don't like it, and have people make up their own minds.
Yeah, no, so City of Yes is pretty wonky in some ways. It's actually three sets of zoning changes. So changes to how, the rules that govern where things can be built and how something can be built in the city. The mayor has already actually successfully passed two sets of these changes. One had to do with sustainability and carbon emissions, and one had to do with where businesses can be located. But this third set has to do with where housing can be built. And this has by far been the most controversial. It's drawn a lot of pushback from community boards throughout the city, even in the Bronx. And, basically the plan is designed to allow for building more housing, loosening up decades-old rules that put caps on how high buildings could be built in certain places. And a lot of the pushback is coming from communities that are worried that more density, meaning, like bigger buildings in their areas, could ruin the character of like a single family home area, could, hurt the property values, bring, more people in than the community has to accommodate. They don't have the services they're
So
arguing.
in other words, a lot of the things that Bronxites have been talking about, let's say beginning in the 70s when we began to rebuild the Bronx at that point, how are we going to structure our neighborhoods? How are we going to structure our communities? The mayor, and I guess his motivation is understandable because we need housing, wants to just kind of open the doors and say, let's be developer friendly and let's build that housing that we need. Right? I mean, that's so. Let me just for people in the Bronx, and these are your colleagues over there at the Bronx Times, put out a piece about it. That community boards 3, 4, 7, and 9 voted yes. So people just identify where your community board is. They voted yes, but community boards 2, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 11 have voted no, and certainly 8, 10, 11, and 12 are ones that really have many private houses, right? So they're the ones. But now, one of the questions that came up, as I understand, about opposition is affordable, that there doesn't seem to be enough structure in the deal that would insist that the new buildings, okay, we tolerate the new buildings, but are they for us or are they for other people who might come into our communities?
Right. So, yeah, that was definitely, I guess, set aside from the concerns about more density in lower density areas. People are concerned that there's not enough in this deal to make sure developers are building affordable housing. There's one provision called the Universal Affordability Preference that's basically it would allow developers to build at least 20% more housing in a development as long as that housing is affordable. But of course, people are saying, what is defining affordable? And
here we go. That's right.
Yeah, it's kind of the age-old issue there. And then also, Oh wait, I forgot what my other point was. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
But
I'll answer. I'll do two things. One is the parking situation.
oh yeah,
Currently, rules stipulate that new buildings, I think it was 33% of the new apartments, you need to make sure you have established that number of parking spaces for each apartment.
yeah,
They're actually talking about doing away with that concept. I understand the movement toward bike lanes and the city bikes in every neighborhood and all that. There are a lot of darn cars in the streets. And I don't know if, we know what we're dealing with congestion pricing. There's been a lot of talk about residential parking. Um, I'm not sure how you deal with that problem if you put up a big new building and you have maybe 75 apartments in it, and 50 of them may have cars, 25 of them. That's still a lot of extra cars to put into a neighborhood where we
yeah,
have no parking, right?
yeah.
Um, and
Well,
then go ahead. What were we going to say?
well, I would just say the argument that the Department of City Planning, which is behind drafting these proposals, has made in response to that is, just because they're doing away with the requirement that there be off-street parking built with these buildings doesn't mean that developers in areas where it's necessary to build that kind of parking, they could still do it. They just aren't required to do it.
Uh, you know, I'm sorry. I'm smiling. My reaction to that is how naive they are. If, especially a lot of the developers putting up buildings, if they can squeeze in a bunch of apartments as well, as 5 new apartments instead of putting in a parking lot and sell that. So I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. I mean, I don't know. The other thing was people would be allowed to rent out, like if they and this maybe benefits the people with homes, because they could rent out like a basement apartment more readily than they can now, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, that would be another proposal that I think people are, at least in lower density communities, are worried about the areas getting like overpopulated
right.
for what's
Overpopulated.
currently there.
And then the other question is, if everybody is doing that, the regulations. I mean, we have a hard enough time keeping regulations on our existing buildings and homes. So anyway, I guess we'll wrap that up. But where is it at now? What does it go to the council? And what is the council votes like? What is your sense? Is this going to happen? Is it going to be amended further? What's your sense?
Yeah, so the next stage is the City Planning Commission has to officially approve it. Presumably they will, because it's their plan.
He's coming
Um,
out of the mayor. Yeah.
and then the next step is it goes before the city council for a hearing. So presumably it will be similar to the hearing that we saw with the City Planning Commission, maybe even bigger. It'll be lots and lots of people testifying, I'm sure. And
Right.
then after that, the city council will vote on it. I'm not exactly sure where all the council members stand on it. I think, the ones that are in more dense areas already are likely leaning toward it.
Vote no.
'Cause-
Yeah, I think that it might go accordingly to the community board. It would be unusual for a community board to say we like this idea while their council member is against it. I mean, I don't want to make any rules, but usually that goes together. And I'll just add before we just go on to something else, that because the Bronx is getting those 4 new Metro North stations, this is a fundamental question, because there's going to be decisions made on development around those 4 stations, and what the rules are, what the zoning rules are, is going to matter a lot. So anyway, the other thing that you wrote about, getting into New York City politics, is the story about advice and consent. The city council submits legislation for a ballot referendum on checking mayoral appointment power. And there you see the council speaker. Um, so the whole idea is the council wants to, if the mayor appoints the deputy commissioner or something like that, the council wants to be able to approve that, or at least review it.
Yeah, so currently the council has this power, which, basically a mayoral appointee, the mayor will nominate someone to lead an agency. They go before the council for approval or denial. Currently, the council only has that for two city agency heads, the head of the Department of Investigation and the corporation counsel, who leads the law department. They're basically the city's lawyer. This bill would expand that power to 20 additional mayoral agency heads. So the Department of Buildings, the Department of Health, the Department of Housing Preservation. So it would like vastly expand the council's power over who the mayor is choosing. They say it's a good government measure aimed at preventing the mayor from making patronage appointees and generally just appointing people that are unqualified to run an agency that they're being assigned to. The mayor says,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, just real quick, the mayor says this bill would politicize a process that right now is not politicized and would potentially slow down the wheels of
I was
government.
just going to say, you start putting more rules in and requiring votes, on the other hand, maybe, given some of the mayor's appointees and some of the associates, they've had, I don't want to review them all, but there have been a number of questions. And so there's a part of me that thinks, well, you know what? The mayor may have brought this on himself, picking, somebody's friend or somebody's brother to a cousin to be, an official of some sort. And then that person has some question marks raised about donations or about other issues. How do you see this playing out? And by the way, are both of these going to get resolved, as we get to 2025? You think it's going to be a next year thing, or is the dialogue ongoing?
The city of Yes is definitely going to be resolved by the end of this year. Or, well, at least I'm pretty sure it is. And then on the advice and consent bill, so the wrinkle in this is that the mayor established this commission.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Called the Charter Revision Commission.
To kind of, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to move it forward to kind of review what is going on. And but actually, if they're talking about a referendum, they would have to get it done by November 5th, right? By election day.
Yeah, so the commission would have to advance its own proposals to be on the ballot on election day by August 5th. So that's coming up.
August 5th. Oh, that is coming up. Wow.
If the commission comes up with its own proposals to put by August 5th, that preempts anything that the council is putting forward.
Right.
So
all right.
It's kind of complicated.
We got to run. Well, we're going to call you back and ask you to sort it out as things go on. We're just always thrilled to have Ethan Stark Miller, who is just doing a great job over there at AM New York. He's covers politics, state politics, New York City politics, all the stuff we need to know. Thank you, Ethan. You be well, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
Great, no problem. All right, we're going to take a short break. We're going to switch gears, and you're going to hear about a Bronxite maybe you never heard of, but he just passed away, and he's one of really the great New York City teachers. Don't go away.